Right, let's talk space weather. Solar disk is very featureless, except for a rising active region and a rising coronal hole. And that coronal hole is good news because coronal holes are typically associated with higher proton to electron ratios. Whether that drops the electron flux or whether it raises the proton flux is kind of irrelevant. What we want is less electron flux, please, and that's what we're getting actually right now. But before we look at that, let's look at the X-ray flux, utterly flatlined. Rest of the solar wind data, flatlined. Wind speed very low. Some temperature fluctuations. Magnetometer, despite the larger scale, has been moving in a very normal, fairly predictable range. Again, here's more X-ray flux data. Very low activity levels. The KP index has been either at 1 or 2 for the last 24 hours, which is good because we're finally getting into a possible discharge mode. Your electron flux has finally dropped below 10 to the 5th and 10 to the 4th, respectively, which is good news because we've been charging hazard for days. As you can see, satellites experiencing extreme internal charging for days. Here's your F2 ionosphere map. So yeah, no sunspots, but there is a coronal hole. The coronal hole should increase the proton to electron flux ratio, which is a good thing. There will be an increase in solar wind speed in a few days. So enjoy the more normal KP index and don't accept any wooden nickels.